Hey everyone, welcome back. Today we are heading to Japan to discuss a ritual that almost every student there knows, but few dare to actually perform. It involves a single sheet of paper, a 10 yen coin, and a spirit that knows everything past, present, and future. We are talking about Kokuri-san. While it might look like a simple game to outsiders, the consequences of opening this door without knowing how to close it can be life-altering. There is one specific rule about the coin used in the game that, if ignored, ensures the spirit follows you home. Stick around until the very end of the video, because I'm going to break down the deep cultural history behind this entity and why the Japanese believe it is actually a mix of 3 different animals. Our first story comes from a woman named Yumi, who grew up in the countryside of Gifu Prefecture. It was late June, the rainy season in Japan, and the humidity was thick enough to choke you. Yumi and her 2 friends, Sato and Keiko, were cleaning their classroom after school. In Japan, there are no janitors. The students clean the school themselves, which means they were often left unsupervised in the late afternoon. Sato was the one who suggested it. She had drawn the layout on a piece of notebook paper. At the top was a red torii gate drawn in marker. Flanking it were the words yes and no. Beneath that, rows of hiragana characters and numbers from 0 to 9. She pulled a 10-yen coin from her pocket. It was old, the bronze tarnished to a deep brown. They pushed 3 desks together in the back of the room. Outside, the rain was hammering against the windows, drowning out the sounds of the baseball team practicing in the distance. They placed the coin on the red torii gate. All 3 of them placed their index fingers on the coin. Kokuri-san, Kokuri-san, please come play with us. They waited. The air in the room felt heavy, stagnant. Suddenly, the coin twitched. It wasn't a slide, it was a vibration, like something electric was running through the metal. Then, slowly, it began to move. It slid down to the word yes. The girls gasped, looking at each other, accusing one another of pushing it. But Yumi said she could feel the pull. It felt like her finger was magnetized to the coin. They started with simple questions. Who does Sato have a crush on? What grade will we get on the math test? The coin moved smoothly, spelling out answers that made them giggle. But then the atmosphere shifted. The light in the classroom seemed to dim, though it was only 4 in the afternoon. Keiko, who had been quiet the whole time, asked a question she shouldn't have. Kokuri-san, how will I die? The coin stopped moving instantly. It sat dead center on the paper. Then, with violent speed, it shot to the top of the paper, hitting the yes, then the no, then back to the center. It began to spin in tight, rapid circles under their fingers. The friction was getting hot. Yumi wanted to pull away, but the rule was absolute. Never take your finger off the coin. The coin stopped spinning and began to spell C-A-R. Keiko let out a shaky breath. But the coin wasn't done. T-O-N-I-G-H-T. Panic set in. Keiko screamed and ripped her finger away. The moment she broke the connection, the coin flew off the desk and hit the chalkboard with a loud crack, leaving a dent in the wood. The paper on the desk suddenly curled up, not as if it were burning, but as if it were aging rapidly, turning yellow and brittle in seconds. Sato and Yumi screamed, grabbing their bags and running out of the classroom, leaving Keiko sobbing by the desks. They eventually dragged her out, terrified. They went straight home, terrified to speak of it. That night, Yumi couldn't sleep. She kept hearing a tapping sound on her bedroom window, which was on the second floor. When she finally worked up the courage to look, there was nothing there but the rain. The next morning, the school was somber. There had been an accident. Keiko had been riding her bicycle to the convenience store late that evening. A driver had skidded on the wet road. She didn't make it. When Yumi went to the classroom that morning, the teachers were talking in hushed tones. They had found the desk where the girls had played. The 10-yen coin was fused into the wood of the desk, melted halfway through, as if it had been superheated by a blowtorch. No matter how hard they tried, they couldn't pry it loose. This next story takes us to an old university campus in Kyoto. It comes from a man named Kenji, who worked the night shift as a security guard. The building was from the early Showa era, full of long, echoing wooden corridors and drafty lecture halls. It was around 2 a.m. during the winter break. The campus was dead silent, the kind of silence where your own footsteps sound like gunshots. Kenji was doing his rounds on the third floor, a section of the university that was rarely used. He saw a light flickering under the door of seminar room 304. Assuming a student had left a light on or forgotten to lock up, he used his master key to open the door. The room was empty of people, but in the center of the room, 4 desks were pushed together. On top of the desks was a large sheet of paper with the Kokurisan layout intricately drawn in black ink. In the center lay a 10-yen coin. Kenji sighed. Students were always sneaking in to do these things for a thrill. He walked over to clean it up. He reached out to grab the paper to throw it in the trash, but as his hand hovered over the table, he noticed something strange. The coin was vibrating. It was a low hum, barely audible, causing the coin to jitter against the paper. Kenji froze. He was a rational man. He didn't believe in ghosts, but his instincts were screaming at him to leave. Against his better judgment, he leaned closer. The air around the table was freezing cold, significantly colder than the rest of the hallway. He reached out and brushed the coin with the tip of his finger, intending to sweep it off the table. The moment his skin touched the copper, his hand stuck. It wasn't sticky, it was a suction force. He tried to pull back, but his arm muscles locked up. He was paralyzed, bent over the table. Then the coin began to drag his hand. It moved with incredible strength, pulling his entire upper body along with it. It slid to the letters H-E-L-P. Kenji tried to speak, tried to shout for his partner on the radio, but his throat was constricted. M-E. The coin moved again. I-T-H-U-R-T-S. Kenji was sweating now, tears forming in his eyes from the strain. He wasn't moving the coin was moving him. He realized with horror that the game hadn't been finished. The students must have run away without saying goodbye, leaving the channel open. Suddenly, the fluorescent lights overhead burst. The room plunged into darkness. In the pitch black, Kenji felt a hot breath against his ear, smelling of wet fur and old dirt. A voice sounding like grinding stones whispered, "Let me in." Kenji summoned every ounce of adrenaline he had and threw his body weight backward. His finger tore loose from the coin, taking a layer of skin with it. He fell backward onto the floor, scrambling away in the dark. He He fumbled for his flashlight, shining it at the table. The paper was gone. The coin was gone. Kenji ran. He didn't stop until he reached the guard station on the first floor. He quit the next day. He told his supervisor he couldn't handle the night shift anymore. But the real reason was what he found in his pocket when he got home that morning. Deep in his jacket pocket, wrapped in a piece of paper that said yes, was a tarnished 10-yen coin. He threw it into a river the next day, but sometimes when he's alone in a quiet room, he can still feel the phantom sensation of his finger being dragged across a table. Our final story is perhaps the most disturbing because it involves the violation of the most important rule: never play Kokuri-san alone. Hiroki was a lonely high school student in Tokyo. He was bullied relentlessly and had no friends to speak of. He had read online that Kokuri-san wasn't just a fortune-telling game, but a way to contact spirits that could grant favors. Desperate and angry, he decided to try it in his bedroom. He set it up on his desk. He opened the window slightly, as the ritual requires, to let the spirit in. He placed his finger on the coin. Kokuri-san, Kokuri-san, please come. The coin moved instantly. It was aggressive, slamming onto the yes. Hiroki asked questions about his bullies. The answers were dark, promising revenge. Hiroki felt a rush of power. He felt heard for the first time. He spent hours talking to the spirit. The spirit told him it was his grandfather, who had passed away years ago. It knew things only his grandfather would know. The nickname he had for Hiroki, the location of a hidden toy. Hiroki was entranced. He lost track of time. It was now 3 a.m. Exhausted, he decided to end the game. Kokuri-san, please go home. The coin didn't move. Hiroki repeated it, his voice trembling slightly. Kokuri-san, please go home. The coin slid slowly to number. Hiroki felt a chill crawl up his spine. Why not? He asked. The coin spelled out ILIKEYOU. Hiroki tried to pull his finger away, but just like in the other stories, he felt a heavy weight on his hand. He looked at the window. It was wide open now, the curtains blowing inward, but there was no wind outside. Kokuri-san, please leave, Hiroki begged. The coin moved again. YOUCALLEDME. Then the coin started moving in a new pattern. It wasn't spelling words anymore. It was tracing the outline of the Torii gate over and over again, faster and faster. Hiroki watched in horror as the ink on the paper began to bleed, turning from black to a dark, rusty red. He looked up at the reflection in his dark window. Standing behind him, in the reflection, was not his grandfather. It was a tall, shadowed figure with long, matted hair and ears that looked like those of a fox. Its hands were resting on Hiroki's shoulders. The coin stopped. It spelled one final message: IAMSTAYING. Hiroki screamed and swiped the paper and coin off the desk. He ran to the window and slammed it shut, locking it. He tore the paper into shreds and threw the coin out of the room. He thought it was over, but it wasn't. Weeks later, Hiroki's parents noticed he was changing. He stopped eating. He stopped speaking. He would sit in the corner of his room, staring at nothing. When they asked him what was wrong, he would just smile, a smile that was too wide, too sharp. One evening, his mother came in to bring him tea. She found him on all fours in the center of the room. He was scratching at the floorboards, his fingernails torn and bleeding. He looked up at her, and his eyes were different. The pupils were vertical slits. He tilted his head and spoke, but the voice wasn't Hiroki's. It was high-pitched and yipping. "The gate is open, Mother." Hiroki was institutionalized shortly after. The doctors called it a psychotic break induced by severe stress. But his family knows the truth. They sold the house. When the new owners moved in, they found hundreds of 10-yen coins hidden in the walls, under the floorboards, and in the ceiling of Hiroki's old room. No matter how many they removed, more would appear the next day. The spirit had not just stayed, it had made a nest. So what exactly is Kokuri-san? While it is often compared to the Western Ouija board, the lore is quite different. The name Kokkuri is actually a compound of 3 kanji characters representing animals. Ko comes from Kitsune, the fox. Ku comes from Inu, the dog. And Ri comes from Tanuki, the raccoon dog. The fox brings the trickery and the cunning. The dog brings the loyalty and protection. The raccoon dog brings mischief and bad luck. When you play the game, you aren't contacting a human ghost. You are inviting a lower-level animal spirit to possess the coin. This is why the answers are often erratic or mischievous. The danger lies in the fox spirit. In Japanese folklore, Kitsune are notorious for possessing people who are weak-willed or who disrespect them. This is why playing alone is so dangerous. You have no one to pull you back if the spirit decides to take over. From a rational perspective, scientists explain this phenomenon as the ideomotor effect. This is a psychological phenomenon where a subject makes motions unconsciously. When you expect the coin to move, your muscles make tiny, imperceptible movements that guide it, especially when multiple people are touching it. The stress, the atmosphere, and the power of suggestion create a feedback loop that makes the movement feel external and supernatural. But whether it's a fox spirit or just the power of your own subconscious, the fear these students felt was very real. What do you think happened? Let us know in the comments below. And don't forget to subscribe for more true ghost stories from across Asia.